Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Becca Studio. Last couple minutes ago, we just had the Baldur's Gate tier list, and now we're here with the Monster Hunter game debate. Right here, I have two fiends. We got Jared and Ethan. These two have thousands of hours on Monster Hunter, I swear. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure they have thousands of hours on Monster Hunter. They've been playing since, like, I don't know, Monster Hunter 2, was it?
Three.
Three?
Yeah.
3D
Yeah, I
years.
started at 3 too.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I'll have 5 questions for you two. 4 of them I've already given you beforehand, but the 5th one I have kept to myself.
Okay.
You two will have 1 minute and 30 seconds in total, and if you need, but I will allow the other contestant to respond. I say contestant like this is a contest. It's not a contest. It's really a debate. But you two will have your say, but if I think you two are going way too long, I will hit this gong. I will also hit the gong when the 1 minute 30-second timer is up.
Okay.
Anyways, let's get started with this first question here. An important element for a fighting game are the fighters. In Monster Hunter, those fighters will be the weapons that you choose. Make the case for the hunting horn and whether or not it can fit in a fighting game.
Who's going first?
And I'll have you start, Jared.
Okay. Let me know when good to go. Okay. So, hunting horn is a very specific weapon because unlike the other 14 weapon classes or other 13 weapons, hunting horn can actually buff other hunters in your party and you can buff yourself. And I guess we're getting asked this question because usually in fighting games, you usually can't buff yourself. There's certain characters in certain fighting games that have abilities that let them do that. And I think I'm gonna run with that for now. Because usually, yeah, fighting game characters, you just have yourself, you fight something else. Hunting horn, technically you play solo, you can still buff yourself solo. Example of this is in Super Smash Bros. Character named Hero. He has a bunch of spells that you can put on yourself, make you attack stronger, go faster, jump higher, stuff like that. And I think there's a pretty similarity with the spells to the songs in Hunting Horn.
All right, you're done, Jared. Ethan, make your case.
Oh, so we gotta establish that you're the one saying it's a fighting game, right?
Oh yes, that's
Yeah,
it.
let's establish that first.
I'm on team Monster Hunters, a fighting game.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I agree with the case that in fighting games there are a bunch of things you can do, a lot of wacky stuff like Hero.
Yeah.
The fact is that Hunting Horn is not in a fighting game. It is not. There is a Monster Hunter represented in a fighting game, which is Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And there's a lot of different things that were incorporated from the Monster Hunter line games. Like there's dodge rolling, there's the Great Sword, there's dual blades. Who is that? Oh. But anyways, the fact that it's not adapted into the fighting game means it can, but doesn't mean it is. So I'm trying to say there's possibility, but it's not right now. It should. It's fun.
Can I have an objection?
No.
What?
This is
If Ethan agrees to objection, can I have an objection?
if Ethan agrees to it.
Yes.
Yes.
Come on.
I would say that Hunting Horn definitely, it's kind of hard to adapt to fighting games because yeah, if you're playing a solo game and you're fighting someone else,
Yeah.
you don't really need to buff yourself necessarily.
Yeah.
But in Skullgirls, there's a character called Big Band. He literally has a big ass trumpet, and that's essentially Hunting Horn if it wasn't a fighting game. Because he's using that horn, he's beating people up, he's playing music. That's pretty much what Hunting Horn is doing in Monster Hunter, but you just can't buff yourself. But the Hunting Horn representation is definitely there in Big Band in Skullgirls.
That is true. But it's not Hunting Horn.
Okay.
It's not the Hunting Horn mechanic.
Sure.
Like you can't. There's no
Okay.
buffs. There, you can do different notes. Like there's 6 different notes and you can play songs,
Okay.
but there's no buffs.
Fair.
And you're not fighting a monster, or if it's in Skullgirls.
That wasn't the question though. We're making case for Hunting Horn in fighting, not fighting games in general.
Well, yeah, it can. Anything can. Yeah.
I'd say you win the off topic.
Y'all, let's move on to the next question.
Okay.
I know you two are so heated right now, but let's move on. Another important element of fighting games is the moveset. Each weapon has standard moves, but also has special moves that differentiate them from one another. Would Monster Hunter Rise's Wire Bug ability be considered a special move in a fighting game? I'll have Ethan start off this time.
Nah. Or well, I'm starting, but nah. It's a okay. For those who don't know, Monster Hunter Rise incorporated a new mechanic called wire bugs. It's a grapple hook. It's a very use case scenario. It can get you out of situations, like you can pull a wire bug to get out, and you can use it as super moves. For example, there's like a sword and shield move called the Whirlwind Blade. You spin your fucking sword like a, sorry, no swearing. There's a sword. You swing a sword like a Beyblade, and you can only do that if you have 2 wire bugs. So it's not, or wire bugs are not a special move. It's a resource. There are resources in fighting games, like in Guilty Gear, there's tension. In Street Fighters, there's overdrive gauge. Those are not special moves. Those are just mechanics that allow you to do different things. They're similar to fighting game abilities because they're super. That doesn't mean it's a fighting game. So yeah.
Okay, Jared. Now take your turn.
Yeah, I agree. The wire bugs, I wouldn't say they're a special move, because usually special moves, they're unique to each character, or in this case, each weapons, they have unique things they could do. And I would consider those special moves. But wire bugs, I see them more as a universal mechanic, because every weapon, they do have access to their wire bug moves. And like Ethan was saying, there's a drive gauge in Street Fighter 6 that you have to manage. Guilty Gear has a tension meter. I see wire bugs as one of those universal gauges they have to manage, one of those resources you have to manage. And yeah, definitely not a special move, because it's not unique to just one weapon. Every weapon has to be managing that resource, just how like in Guilty Gear, Street Fighter, Tekken, there's all resources every character has to manage.
Okay, so what you're saying here is that the wire bug move is more like a movement mechanic in a fighting game rather than a special.
No.
It's a resource.
Yes, like me and Ethan were saying, it's more of a resource, not a movement mechanic, but it's a resource you can use to become a movement mechanic. Yeah.
Okay,
It's like
got
mana in RPG.
Yeah.
it. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't need to ring this gong. You two answered pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to our third question. While only common in the Super Smash Bros. Series, items are a significant mechanic in Monster Hunter. Can deodorant fit into the fighting game mold?
Oh,
Who's
who's
going
starting?
first?
Jared, you're going first.
Okay. Let's see. Can deodorant fit into the fighting game mode?
Explain it
Yeah,
first.
what does that mean? What does that question entail? What's the fighting game mold?
So basically, can we fit deodorant as a fighting game mechanic as an item, pretty much? Deodorant is basically you remove the stench. It helps again in the Voldurion fight, pretty much, because she makes you stink and you can't use items. So basically, deodorant helps you negate that debuff. So is there of use in fighting games for a mechanic where you can remove debuffs?
This question's kind of hard, because usually fighting games, when you do give a debuff to someone, it isn't a permanent debuff. Eventually it's going to go away. Where Monster Hunter, when you get that stench effect from certain monsters, you smell bad. I believe you can't use any of your items. And Monster Hunter, a big part of getting hit, and you can heal back that damage by using potions. And so you kind of need deodorant for certain fights. In Super Smash Bros., I don't think there's even a debuff that, in general, that can be applied to fighters. I'm not too sure. I don't play Smash Bros. This is Ethan's expertise.
I can help with that. Okay, there is a debuff. Primary example is with Jigglypuff Rest. If you hit the move, there's a little flower that does damage over time. And it does like 50%, which is a lot. It's kind of like Joker. Joker has that too with his side B, his Aha. It also does damage over time. I don't know if that really counts as a debuff though.
Yeah, I think, this deodorant and the stench mechanic is also just a really, really niche mechanic in Monster Hunter 2. Maybe like 1 or 2 monsters will have it in the main game. But
yeah, if you want to incorporate it into a fighting game, you have to make sure it like fits really well.
yeah, it has to be part of like a character's moveset to give people stench, and then there'll be room to add that deodorant to get rid of it.
Okay, that's two very fair responses. We'll move on to our next question. Question number 4. Armor and equipment aren't too common in fighting games, but play an important role where it is present, like in For Honor. Would changing armor be like switching to a different fighter with a similar moveset? For example, like in Echo Fighters with Smash, or with subclasses in For Honor?
I think there's a very, I want to say basic, more like a fundamental argument here. Fundamental difference, I should say. And For Honor, I don't know how that works, to be honest, because if you're changing armor, does it change the character, or is it just the armor?
It's mainly just the armor, but there will be slight differences to the character as well.
Okay, good. Because that means you're not changing characters. You're changing what you're equipping. In Monster Hunter, you could do the same thing. You change what you equip, and you change like the skills that you have.
Yeah.
But that's not really a fighting game mechanic. In fighting games, you switch mechanics by switching a character. They have different moveset, they have different combo routes, different ways to play neutral, different animations for each like individual character. And For Honor and Monster Hunter, you share a lot of different animations. The only thing that's really different is the weapon you're using and whatever you look like. So I wouldn't say it's choosing a different fighter. You're choosing different things to use on your fighter. It's not really a fighter though. You're just using your character. It's not a fighting thing. Yeah.
Okay, Jared, what's your response?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Usually in fighting games, you get your character. There's not much you can really change about it. Ethan's right that in Monster Hunter, you can choose your weapon, but the cool part about Monster Hunter is that you can make your own different builds that give you different skills that allow you to play the same weapon, but in different ways. And I think a similar example to that is the groove system. We were talking about this earlier. Capcom versus SNK. In that game, you can choose a character, but then you can choose these different grooves that drastically change how you play that character. And that definitely isn't a normal fighting game mechanic. It's really unique, and that probably separates Capcom versus SNK versus other fighting games. But I like seeing that player expression, because usually you're just stuck with playing that character. You have to play a certain way. But just like Armor in Monster Hunter can allow you to play a character you like in different ways. And Capcom vs SNK, you can use those grooves to play a character how you want to play it, pretty much, instead of playing it the normal way.
Okay, yeah, that's actually, you're making me more interested in Capcom and versus SNK, now that I think about it. But here is our last question for our Monster Hunter debate for today. Question number 5. The reason you hunt monsters in Monster Hunter in the first place is to gather valuable parts from the monsters. Explain how cutting off the tail of Mitsusune, a non-playable monster for the most part, can or can't be integrated into a fighting game. I will have Jared start off this question.
Okay.
It's a tough one.
Say it one more time. It's not written out. You said how's cutting off Mitsusune tail part of Monster Hunter?
Can you explain that into a fighting game mechanic, pretty much?
This is a tough question, because I don't think fighting games, usually when you fight another character, it's all for show. Like so a character with a sword can swing at someone's arm. It's not going to come off, because losing an arm in a fighting game is not great. But, I would say actually, no. What's the question again? How can you put it into a fighting game?
Yeah, can you put something like cutting off limbs into a fighting game?
I would say the closest example is probably Street Fighter 4. Vega, the character with a claw and a mask. He greatly changes the way he plays if you're able to knock that claw off of him. For example, Vega, he's a boxer, I think. He has a claw, like a Wolverine claw. And Vega's whole mechanic is that he has long range pokes, right? And the second you knock off that claw, completely different character. He loses all that range advantage. He can't pretty much space you out, because the whole deal with Vega is that he's trying to keep you out. The second you knock off that claw, he can't do that anymore. And I guess you can say the similar thing for Mizitsune too. Mizitsune has a lot of tail whip attacks, a lot of moving around. The second you cut off the tail, there's a whole portion of Mizitsune you don't have to worry about anymore. I think that's the closest way I can relate it back to fighting games.
Okay, and Ethan, what is your response to this question?
That was a good argument.
Because Ethan, we both play Street Fighter 4 on PS3. We both don't like Vega.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I also played Bloodstorm, and that fighting game's entire mechanic is basically you cut off your opponent's limbs so they don't have as many abilities to fight you with anymore. But Ethan, I want to know how cutting off Mitsusune's tail is not a fighting game mechanic.
That's what you say your game, it can. I had to agree because I'm thinking on the theoretical aspect that as long as you have the foundations of a fighting game, you can put any type of mechanic you want and it can work. It's like, let's think about Street Fighter, right? You have very grounded focused movement with you got frame data for like how minus or plus you are on block, which is important for your advantage and disadvantage state. You have low emphasis on jump-ins because you can't block in the air, and that's like it's like a mental stack thing you have to be careful of. Those are the things that make Street Fighter up. But that doesn't mean you can't add another mechanic to that foundation. That just means it hasn't been done yet. It's very similar to the hunting horn argument. Just because it's not in a fighting game doesn't mean it can. It's just whether the foundations of a fighting game have all the mechanics that needs to be a fighting game. Then you can put it into a fighting game. But no, it hasn't been for at least Monster Hunter. For Monster Hunter, does Monster Hunter have the foundation for a fighting game? That's a different argument. Because let's take some comparison. In Street Fighter, you're doing one-on-one with another person usually. In Monster Hunter, you're doing player versus the computer, which is the monster. That's for another time, though. I'm pretty sure I'm done. Yeah.
All right, now I think is a good time to bring in our judges. We have our two judges here coming onto the set. Can I have your names real quick? Here you go.
I'm Diego.
I'm DeMarcus.
All right, so we honestly think Jared won by a landslide. Like, Monster Hunter is clearly a fighting game.
Can we do closing remarks so we get one last say? Because Ethan might be able to. Oh, yeah, I have a microphone already. Yeah. I can go first.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I'd say fighting games, if you think about it just as a fighting game, Monster Hunter, yes, is a fighting game because it's the players versus the monsters. And I think at their core, fighting games aren't necessarily about fighting people. I think fighting games are all about learning, right? You always want to get better. You always want to outdo yourself. And I see playing Monster Hunter as a very streamlined way of how to get that feedback. Like, yes, I'm getting better at this game. I'm getting better at hunting these monsters. And I'm going to keep on moving up the food chain, essentially, to show that I'm getting better, I'm improving. And it's something I can be proud about, that I am a Monster Hunter, and I can keep on improving. But that's why I think it's a fighting game. But let's see what Ethan says about Monster Hunter being a fighting
This is the thing. For a fighting game, it's a very, I wouldn't say strict, but there's a lot of different. This is what I was talking about with the mechanics. There's mechanics that make the foundation of a fighting game, at least in the common perception of them. Like there's Street Fighter, there's Guilty Gear, there's Tekken, there's Smash Bros. All of them have different fighting game mechanics, but they all have the foundation as you're fighting against someone else, usually. Just because there's an option to play against a computer doesn't mean it's not a fighting. Doesn't mean it's a fighting game, or not a fighting game actually. Because in Street Fighter you can play against computers, but it's still a fighting game. Can you do 1v1 in Monster Hunter?
That's a good question.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think you can. But that wraps up our segment for Monster Hunter. Give it up for our judges and give it up for our contestants. I will hand the mic to the judges right now.
So yeah, we think Jared won by a landslide. I mean, you.
Bruh.
What's the definition of fighting? Just hitting someone, What do you think? You're killing monsters.
Yeah, man. As long as you're killing the monsters, getting them done, game over, man.
Also, we think Graphilos is literally in Smash Bros. And
That's his trophy, bro. What you mean?
You need to be a fighting game character to be in Smash Bros. So can you get off stage?
You can't play Rathalos.
Can you get off stage? We got we got present.
Oh shit, my
We want to present you as the winner.
Oh,
Congratulations.
that's what you mean.
No, don't even
My bad.
congratulate him, bro.
He's my brother. I need to handshake him.
Handshake him.
Yeah, there you go.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day, man.
All right. You're the winner.
Thank you,
Right.
thank you.
Clear.
Oh.
Yeah, man.
Yay.
Winner.
That's it. We're good.
Put the mic down like that.
Oh my
Boom
God.
and make it boom.